Hi, Brian from Brian's Out for Animals here. Of course, I've been a tiger caretaker at accredited zoological facilities and sanctuaries for over 20 years, and I'm here with another great tiger movie. Not too long ago, I was showing you Tiger Mafia, which is a great movie. I hope you all had a chance to watch or stream that. Now I'm going to talk about Tiger-24. Tiger-24 is a very unique look at a tiger situation, which involves tiger conservation of sorts. You can watch it right now for free on Netflix. If you have Netflix, watch it here on YouTube. You can rent or download it. Like I said, just be sure to watch it. It's a fantastic movie. It's going to give you a good look at the situation for tigers over there in India. The main focus of the movie is a tiger T-24 at Ranthambore National Park, a park that I brought all of you to when you came with me to the Safari Tiger series. I've been to this park twice. You can watch all my videos that I filmed in the park here on my channel, of course. But this tiger T-24 was deemed a man-eater. Unfortunately, he killed 4 people, or at least they claimed he was responsible for 4 human deaths, so it's a lot. It's very interesting to see how they handle it in India versus here, obviously in the US. We're eager to jump the gun, so to speak, and take out any animal that we deem is a problem, or any animal that was involved in any kind of human attack. Over there with tigers, they're very careful to determine whether or not it truly is a man-eater. This was a very interesting situation where all 4 attacks happened within the national park. So you have the questions of, are the people invading on his territory or not? Producer, filmmaker Warren Piera, I think is how you say his last name, did a wonderful job in just pulling back and talking to relatives of the victims, people that work at the park, conservationists, get their all opinion on this very interesting topic, because there at the park, some parks in India, you have a little bit of land outside the park. So you have a zone that kind of, the cats, if they go officially outside of the park, they have a little bit to roam. Ranthambore National Park, if you've ever been, there's pretty much tourism and people's villages right out across the street from a gate or a fence, that a tiger can easily jump over. So they are butt up against this park. And it is interesting to see what they're going to do in the future. The population of tigers at the park is pretty full, which is a great thing for tiger conservation. You want to have lots of cats out there, which India has to be applauded for its efforts. It's done a wonderful job keeping the tiger population up. But now the question for certain parks, especially Ranthambore, is now what do you do to protect that population as soon as it's up? And for T-24, he had people coming through his territory a lot. Now people are coming through to simple things like just use the washroom or collect wood or plants, or on their way to worship at a temple. Now that is a tricky situation, because what do? Do you just move the temple outside of the park so you kind of rectify that situation? Well, these people have been worshiping there for a long time, and for generations they've been walking through this area to go worship. Now it's a national park with lots of tigers in it, so that's going to be a hard one. The other one for people collecting supplies and using the facilities in there, that's for me is a very outside view. It's hard to understand because there's a lot of resorts, hotels and such. Like I said, tourism is strong in that area. Perfect plumbing. There's American toilets there, perfect plumbing. So I don't get why the funds that tourism is paying for these parks, why those funds can't supply a good sewer plumbing system for the people that live outside these parks to squash the problem of people having to go into the park for that reason. Also, supplies should be made for the local people. They should not have to seek anything inside that park. They should be able to get all of that. And of course, if you're in India, you know more about the situation, let me know in the comments below, because that is a question I have. Why just can't build up the areas outside the park in a way that the people no longer feel a need to go inside the parks? I was at another park on my first trip to India in 2012, right after one of their forest personnel was killed by a tiger. So I got to sit in a Jeep with people that knew the person and kind of see firsthand. It's a weird way how much they respect these cats. Even if this cat unfortunately took a life of someone they knew, be it a family or a friend, how much still respect they have for these animals and the importance that these animals serve not only for tourism, but for the ecosystem. And it's really, in this film, does a great job in capturing that, letting you look at the respect that these people have for this beautiful animal. And a lot of people didn't want to believe, whether it's true or not, that this animal particularly killed 4 people. From an outsider view and just looking at the movie, I would think it's possible. Maybe he killed 3 out of those 4 people. You couldn't prove it all. One of the reasons why was, well, shortly after a person was killed, he didn't have a lot of blood on him. Well, he could have cleaned off a lot of blood. He could have licked it off. The cat could have easily licked it off. I think that was a strong male and that was his territory. It doesn't seem like another cat would want to come in there and eat something, be it the prey that he should be eating, a deer or a person. You'd want to stay clear if that was his territory. So those 4 attacks and people unfortunately killed in his territory, you would think it was him who did it because he was the main cat. Now his mate was Nor, and if you remember in my last safari series, the first tiger we came upon in Zone 1 was Nor, and she is still there. Beautiful female tigers, had lots of cubs, so it's really interesting. If you've traveled to the park and you've seen a few of these cats, kind of know where certain filming locations were and where it was. You can see firsthand, oh yeah, as soon as we drive to the park, there's big human population outside the park, and the cat's just inside this park. And that's another thing. India has to deal with its human population almost explosion. There are a lot of people in India, and even in this film, any scene that they shoot, if he's talking to a village or not, there are people everywhere. So it's hard to have that many people living around a park that's full of tigers. So that's another thing that they are going to have to come up with a balance to it. Another thing was after they had sent T-24 to a zoo, they call it, he was having lots of problems. One thing for me as a tiger keeper, I know in Sumatra they had this where they have nuisance tigers that they have to put in captivity. People are taking care of them. There they kind of treated them like the same as their zoo cats. They would train them, they would feed them in a way that they could see that the food was coming from a human. For me, if you're going to put T-24 in a zoo, I don't see the need to then treat him like a wild cat at that point. We're just hiding and then putting the food and then moving it over. I would try to get him as used to people as possible. If he's going to live under human care from that point on, you have to get them used to. I'm not talking about being in there with them, I'm not talking about free hands-on contact with the cat, but there's a way you could communicate and work with that cat through, if there's a cage panel or something between you, obviously, to get them more at ease with being in captivity for these animals that were used to being kind of out there in the wild, who now have to live in a captive setting. Interesting thing they bring up is this cat was looked at for a paw, treated for a paw injury, and was under anesthesia and around people for quite a long time. You want to do any procedure you have to do on an animal, if it's an exam or treating a wound or something, you want to be quick. If it's a zoo cat or a wild cat, you want to be a few hours tops. And they had him under for a long time. So they think, did that play a part into him hating mankind and wanting to just attack any human he saw? I think it's an interesting point to bring up. However, killing 4 people in the span of a few years, knowing that he's got to eat as often as he's eating, he obviously didn't seem to pick humans every meal, obviously, and didn't seem to really seek them out. So I question that a little bit, but that's the awesome thing about this movie. It has lots of points, has lots of things that you can kind of question yourself, like I kind of think their side is right, but I kind of believe them. He talks to a lot of great, interesting people that have really strong personalities. So once again, do yourself a favor and watch T-24, Netflix, YouTube, however you want to do it. It's a great movie about tigers.